Looking for tickets to the hottest shows, games, and events? Ticket Liquidator is your one-stop shop for great prices, no hassles, and guaranteed tickets. Since 2003, we've been connecting buyers and sellers, providing access to sold-out events at prices lower than most secondary market options. Whether it's sports, theater, or concerts, our massive nationwide network ensures you get the tickets you want, guaranteed. For the best seats at the biggest events, start with Ticket Liquidator today at ticketliquidator.com. That's TICKETLIQUIDATOR.com. Ticket Liquidator. This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Marriott's on the move.
What?
Marriott's on the move.
Again?
Marriott's on the move.
If you're dreaming about moving to a new city to pursue the life of your dreams, this podcast is for you. Moving 18 times in 23 years to 5 of America's top cities, I know it's not easy to make those decisions alone. I help you develop the dream, the plan, and the move, even if we need to get scrappy to get you there. I'll be doing interviews, career and city spotlights, and sharing my crazy moving stories, tips, tricks, and scams to avoid. Traveling to explore your dreams has never been easier. Now let's get moving. Hey, welcome back to the show, everyone. I am with Adency Selena from St. Petersburg, Florida. Adency is a soul purpose coach who helps passion-led entrepreneurs show up confidently and consistently so they can bring to life the mission they've been called upon. She believes we can all bring our gifts into the world and do what we love as long as we learn how to get out of our own way. And I say amen to that. Outside of coaching, you can find Adency in sunny Florida, dancing at the beach drum circle, laying in the grass in every park, and eating all the sushi. And I may have to join you in all of those things soon. So Adency, welcome to the show. I am super excited to share your story.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really excited to be here.
Yeah, so we were talking a little bit before the show started, and you told me that you grew up being like bringing up horses, and tell me about that, because I asked you how many times you've moved, and you're like, well, this is what I was doing in my life, and I just was like, wait, we got to tell this story. This is awesome. So share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I started out, my first job was in the horse industry. I started riding when I was 7. I got my first horse at the age of 12. And from that young age, I was like, this is what I'm doing forever. I was very, very determined, set on it, skilled at it, talented. So I dedicated myself to the horse industry for pretty much from the age of 12 to about 23, 24.
Wow. So what did you love about it?
I loved the horses. I love the horses. I love being around them. They are such incredible animals. They teach us so much about ourselves. There's just nothing, the presence of being around a horse, you just can't quite compare it to anything else. I feel like it's so unique, and they really help us to slow down and, just be with them, be present. But I loved learning about what's called natural horsemanship. So it's a very natural way to work with horses and build a partnership with them. I loved learning about the psychology of the horses, like why they think the way they think, why they do what they do, because they are prey animals, and how can we use that psychology to help them as a predator, as a human, right? And balance out that relationship. So it was so interesting. I loved it. Very fulfilling. Yeah.
I don't think of a horse as a predator, which is crazy. I think of them as these beautiful, majestic, peaceful animals. So that is crazy.
Yeah.
So
horse is a prey animal. Is that what I said? Horse is a prey animal. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me how that kind of impacted kind of where you went in life. So talk about your journey, like how you moved, how you came to become a soul purpose coach. I mean, we talk a lot about dreams and pursuing, where you want to be in life. And I think a lot of people have this connection between your purpose and your calling and your passion. So tell me a little bit about your story and like kind of how you got to St. Petersburg, Florida.
Yeah, it's a long one that I'll condense here, but yeah. So with the horse industry, I got into my mid-20s and I could realize that I wasn't passionate about it anymore.
Mm.
I was dreading the day ahead. I didn't want to go to my job. It was just time for that chapter in my life to end, right? From the moment that I realized that, it took me about another 3 years to actually transition out of the horse industry, because there was so many disempowering beliefs that were coming in my mind and stories that I was playing in my head, especially since I hadn't gone to college. I chose not to go to college. I chose to pursue the horse industry instead. And so I wholeheartedly believed I didn't have any skills outside of the horse industry. And so I would tell myself these very disempowering stories, so it took me quite a while to transition out of the horse industry. But what is really cool is that, because I literally did not know myself outside of horses, right? This had been my
It's your whole identity.
Yes, since I was 12. So when I did finally make that decision to get out of it, I had to explore. I had to try things. And I went on this really, really beautiful, deep self-discovery journey of, who am I? Who am I outside of horses?
What do I want to be when I grow up?
yeah. Like, I literally didn't even know what I was interested in or passionate about. So I went on a really beautiful self-discovery journey and started just trying thing after thing, idea after idea, passion after passion. Fast forward a little bit, got more into the self-growth industry. Fast forward a little bit, started learning about, online entrepreneurship. Fast forward a little bit, got more into spirituality. Fast forward a little bit, and I was having lunch with a friend one day who was sharing with me how there were so many things she wanted to be doing in her life, but she wasn't doing them. Mm-hmm. And so at this lunch, I really helped her to kind of peel back the layers of, why aren't you doing the things that you really want to do? And started coaching her without knowing it was coaching.
That's what you were doing. Yeah.
Yep. And I went home that day, started journaling, and realized, oh my gosh, I've already been doing this with people in my life. This has already been a pattern, but it was so natural and a part of my life, I couldn't see it. And so I went home from that lunch that day, realized that I'd already been doing this, and also realized, oh, this is actually something I can make a career out of.
Yeah.
So it was a huge light bulb moment where it switched, and it was like, wow, this is something I'm naturally gifted at, and I can actually make a career at this. And I love it. It fulfills my soul. It fulfills like everything I've been looking for and being fulfilled in my career. So that's very, very long story short.
No, I love it. I mean, what is a soul purpose? Like, how does one go about identifying that? Like you said, you put the work in and you really spend some time getting to know yourself. Like, what did you do to do that?
Yeah. So I started attending a lot of, self-growth events, spiritual growth events. I started getting around more people that are in, those industries that are dedicated to that. And so it really started to just open up my mind, and I just started getting more and more and more curious. And so it led me to question, how do I feel like I fit into this world? Like, how do I want to serve? And so eventually, because what I had realized too, a lot of the things that I had been trying, there wasn't a lot of fulfillment in them. I didn't feel like I was serving other people. I didn't feel like I was giving back in an aligned way. So as I started to try things, I'm like, this fulfillment piece is missing. I don't know when or how it's going to come, but it's missing. So I just kind of kept trying things, and it led me to this beautiful moment of realizing that soul purpose coaching was it for me. But I do believe, that our purposes, they shift and they grow and they evolve and they change, right? So a lot of people think that your soul purpose is like this big one thing, that you're going to do forever. I always tell people it's not just one big thing. It's something that shifts and changes just as we do, just as our interests do.
Yeah. And I think it's important to be able to pivot. You got to a point with the horse industry that you were just like, I don't love this anymore. But there's some people that are like, I don't love this anymore, but that's all I know. So I'm just going to do another 20 years in it. And then like when I'm in my 40s or 50s, like we'll see what and by that time it's too late. Like you can't kind of get out of it. It's like the golden handcuffs. Well, I shouldn't say that. You can get out of it. It's just harder to pivot when you've gotten very far in your career, very far in your life, and you feel like that's all you've been doing. It's hard to like figure out what else is out there after that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I help people with too, is because I feel like for some people, there's a point in their life where they start to get curious and they start to question, and they're at their day job. They realize they're not enjoying it. And then they're starting to be like, maybe what else is out there for me? What else is out there for me?
Yeah.
And a lot of times I feel like people get overwhelmed and think, I need to make this really drastic shift, where it's like, I try to help people decide, what is really best for you? What is going to serve you? Is it a drastic shift? Is it going all 110% in? Or is it, okay, I really need this financial security, because that's a very real part of the human experience.
Yep.
And so how can I keep working towards those goals and visions that I have, but like still be safe in my financial needs? But like, can I dedicate, maybe just an hour a week or a couple hours a week to focusing on those goals while still having that financial security?
Have you heard of Monat or Modern Nature? I hadn't either before my friend Monica was raving about their skincare products that she's obsessed with. I took their hair quiz to find out which product line would be best for me, since I just happen to be looking for new shampoo and conditioner, and I signed up for their VIP package that got me a little bit of everything to try out. Turns out they are the first anti-aging hair care line in the world, which I didn't even know was a thing, and their products are gluten-free, vegan, and Leaping Bunny certified, which means they're never tested on animals. Now I'm obsessed with their rich formulations that feature botanical extracts, essential oils, and other naturally based ingredients, and I want to share those products with you. I'll put the link in the show notes, or you can hit the faves page on my website. It's safe, EU approved, and clinically tested by third parties, so essentially robustness approved. Now back to the show.
Boom. Play it.
Have you ever listened to a commercial on the radio or a podcast and thought, I could totally do that? Well, I am challenging you today. Being a voiceover artist is an amazing side hustle that can be done from the comforts of your own home. Heck, it can be an amazing career. Just ask Jesse Carroll. Jesse's got over 1,000 voiceover credits to his name. Ever watch Backroad Truckers? He's the narrator. He's also done a ton of commercials for brands you would definitely recognize. If you're ready to try your hand at voiceovers, go to marriottsonthemove.com and head to my favorites page to learn more about his new digital course and coaching package. If you use code MOTM, you'll get 20% off at checkout.
Hey, Micah Burgess here. I just wanted to drop in for a second and let you guys know that we are rebranding my podcast. We've got a new name, My Doula Micah, my birth, my baby, my life. And we are super excited about extending the content that we've got going from childbirth to postpartum. Now we're including family and marriage and just kind of your life in these childbearing years and what that looks like, and maybe give some helpful tips and wisdom. I mean, I'm 51. I got 6 kids. I think I can help you guys with some stuff. There will still be local interviews, of course. And I'm also expanding now to have including more nationwide interviews. We even have somebody from Canada and Australia. So I'm super excited about this process and what we've got in store for y'all. So join us.
Yeah. And I think it's gathering data, right? Very early on in the podcast, I interviewed a guy named Tommy Choi. So Tommy and I worked together at my current full-time job. We both worked in technology sales. And it was funny because he was doing the things that I coach around way back then. I was his recruiter right out of college. Like I've known him for a long time, but he was doing sales, but then also had an interest in real estate. And so instead of just, quitting his job right away, he started doing it on the side. And then he started doing a little more of it. And then he met a guy that he's now partnered with, and they have a, award-winning multi-million-dollar real estate firm. But at the time it was like, let me put my toes in the water, see if I like it, and then I'll jump in, which I highly recommend, because you're right. Like, safety and security is a core need of our like human, like our human soul you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to feel like you're in the right, like on the right path, if you don't feel secure or safe in where you are or what you're doing. So I think that's really something that people struggle with too.
Exactly. Yeah. It's incredibly important that we feel safe and we have those basic needs yet. For myself, I kind of did do, I got burnt out and was exhausted. So I did do a full just jump out of it. And sometimes we do need to do that. But it's just, you really have to decide and lean into what is best for you, and how much risk can you hold and still be healthy.
Yeah. What are some other obstacles that people face as they're going through this like discovery phase?
Yeah, I think a lot of things. I always tell people, our biggest obstacle is ourselves, right? It's learning how to navigate all of the internal things that come up for us. But one of the biggest things I like to talk about is that when you do start to have these curiosities of what else is out there for me, or maybe I want to do something more fulfilling, like, know that those feelings are 110% valid, because a lot of people will immediately talk themselves out of it, right?
Yeah.
They'll start to have these feelings and these thoughts, but they'll be like, oh, no, wait. Oh, no, I'm just supposed to, have this financial security and this job that I'm going to do forever. And I'm safe, I'm comfortable. It's good. So first of all, know that those feelings are
meanwhile,
valid.
you're like dying inside a little bit.
Right.
And like,
yes. Yeah. You like hate hearing your alarm going off. You're like wishing Monday was Friday. Like,
yeah, it's a real thing.
Yes. Yeah. So first of all, it's knowing that your feelings are valid. And then it's like, start to lean into those. And I loved, was it Kara Taylor, that dream builder coach? So then it's like, now that you're starting to have those feelings, lean into them and even more. And like Kara talked about, do the visualization exercises and learn to dream big again.
Yeah. Because as you're gathering data, you can figure out what feels good and what doesn't feel good. But there's not a whole lot of risk. Like, if you're in a full-time job and you're trying things out, like we were talking, at one point in my life, I wanted to be an actress. And then I went into corporate America and I did all the things and I got laid off. I was at a startup. Gosh, this had to be 10 years ago. I got laid off and I was like, oh, okay, well, let's try acting. I had the summer, to audition and memorize scripts and do all these things. And I was like, you know what? This sucks. Like, I do not love this. Like, this is a lot of waiting around. This is a lot of memorizing. And it's just not, it doesn't seem fun. Like, in my head, I thought it was going to be. And meanwhile, I was interviewing at other places, but I gathered data that helped me say, like, okay, you know what? I feel content not pursuing this anymore. I'm going to close the chapter on this dream and pivot and go back and see what else I like. And it turns out I really liked coaching. And so that was one of the things that like was put on my heart, and I'd been mentoring for a long time, and I kind of leaned into it, and I still have my full-time job because I still love working with a team and working in the tech industry. But then I also get to do this on the side and like have people like you that I get to interview and like hear their stories. And like, I get to take that back to somebody who's maybe graduating college or going through a divorce and help them, like pivot and make those transitions as well. And like feel that contentment, because I think that's something that we need as well, to just, be okay with where we are and what we're doing. So.
Absolutely. And I love your point of pivoting, because I think it's so important to just go try things and acknowledge like, okay, I've tried this. It's not quite what I thought it was going to be. Okay, now let's go try something else. A lot of people get caught up in stories in between that. And they're like, oh, they really want to stay in it because they think that, it's what they really, really, they envisioned it differently than what it was, or they just tell themselves stories. And it's like, it's okay to pivot. Like, just keep pivoting, keep pivoting. And it's much better to have tried something and close that story rather than wondering what if, right?
Yeah, that like regret like hanging over your head forever. I mean, I've met people that when I tell them like, where all I've moved, they're like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to live in San Diego. And I was like, oh my gosh, how long have you been feeling this way? I don't know. I visited in, 1975. And I'm like, what? You've been thinking for 40 years or, 50, how 1970, almost 50 years that you want to move to San Diego and you just never did it. Like, why didn't you close that chapter? I think there's something very powerful also to what you were saying, like leaning in and seeing if you like it, right? Taking the opportunity to say like, okay, no, I'm doing it. I might be vacationing and just trying this out, but like, does this feel good? Is this something I want to stay for a couple more days, or am I really wanting to get back to my city and, just close that chapter?
Right. Exactly. And that's why it becomes so important to just listen to ourselves, like lean into our own voice and really give our heart, our soul a voice so that we can understand when it is time to shift rather than letting our mind that brings up all the stories like control the narrative and talk us out of things.
Yeah, because your subconscious just wants to protect you. Like that's its sole purpose, is just to make sure that you're safe and secure and you're not doing anything that's going to cause you harm, because that's the evolution of life. But I want to lean in a little bit on this intuition thing. So what role does intuition and kind of your inner guidance play in this self-discovery as kind of you're trying to fill your soul purpose, I guess?
Yeah, I think intuition is incredibly important and incredibly powerful. However, I also don't want to, some people don't resonate, with those words. So also I would like, just to simplify it, I would say, start to just lean into your heart and start to lean into, those things that feel maybe a little bit scary. It's kind of like this just little voice inside of you that's like wondering and questioning and testing and like challenging things. I say just start to lean into that just to like simplify it.
Yeah.
But it's incredibly, incredibly important to give those little voices and give those little thoughts that are questioning things a voice. Listen to it, lean into it. And oftentimes what happens is when those little voices come up, we immediately think about everything that could go wrong.
Yes.
And I say, when those voices and thoughts come up, ask yourself, what if it went better than I could ever imagine?
Yeah. Yeah, Susie Moore is a life coach. She's got like a monthly life coaching membership, and she's actually my media coach, which is really cool. But she has a podcast called Let It Be Easy. And it's funny because there's been several times that I've almost quit doing this podcast. Partially because it's a lot of work. Like I work full time, I travel a lot for my job, and it just like, even though I love doing the interviews and I love doing this part of it, like the you and me, like having this conversation part, all the other stuff in the background just felt so hard. And a couple weeks ago, I guess this is probably a month ago now, I woke up in the middle of like 4:30 in the morning. It was a Saturday morning. I could have slept in. I like had no reason to be up, and I just woke up and I was like, okay, I could not fall back asleep. I'm like, I'll just get up and get moving. And I had this huge laundry list of things that I felt like I had to get done. And I was like, gosh, it just felt like I was just resisting it so hard. And I was like, I'm thinking, she's British. So, if you listen to her podcast, they're like 5-minute shorts every single day. And I just hear her voice in my head that said, what if it were easy? What would that look like? And I was like, I don't know. It's 5 a.m. Let me think, and I just started thinking like, okay, well, I use Riverside.fm as our platform, and it does transcribes things for me. So if I could take that and I could help, put that into show notes, and then I could create this, and then I can do that, and then I can put it in the Monday. And then all of a sudden I had this like list of things that I could do. And I did it that day for like 4 podcast episodes. And within like 3.5 hours, I was done. And I was like, all right, I've got to be missing something. That was way too easy. And I think that's part of it is like, awareness is half the battle, right? Like you're going to naturally self-sabotage. Like that's again, like what I said, your subconscious's sole purpose is to protect you. But like if you're aware of what you're resisting and like really leaning into that, like you said, like, the obstacles and stuff that you're going to face, that self-doubt and fear is real. But also, like, is it valid, right? Do you have to believe everything you think? Maybe not, right? So I think that's another crucial part of like maintaining that motivation and focus when you have a goal, trying it out, gathering that data, and then moving forward. So you did mention like, you left the horse industry. Was there some kind of pivotal thought or some, something that you kind of just like lean into and you're like, you know what, this feels right? Like, how did you know that the coaching aspect and that leaning in felt right and that you wanted to do it?
Yeah. So the story I was kind of sharing about earlier, when I was having lunch with a friend that day and realized I was basically coaching her, and then went home and realized, oh, this is actually a thing. When I had that moment, it was very clear. It was like something went through my body that I hadn't experienced before. It was this moment of clarity, of fulfillment, and literally in my third eye, everything just started to flash before my mind of all of the challenges that I have been through. And it made so much sense in that moment of why I had gone through all of those challenges to come to this place where I really feel like I'm in my soul's purpose. Yeah. And I had to go through all of those challenges in order to help other people. So it makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah. But it was a very distinct moment of, there's just kind of this spiritual
like
experience.
Divine download, right?
Yes, coming through my whole body. And it's like nothing I'd ever experienced before. And from that moment, because I had so much clarity, it made so much sense. I just went full bore ever since then. Mm-hmm.
And had you not gone through all those challenges, you might not be able to be removing roadblocks for people right now. Like you probably had roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, and you had to figure it out. And I think that that's a disconnection that people often have when I'm coaching them, especially young adults in like their 20s and 30s. They almost feel like their story isn't valid, or that there's nothing that they could, use from their past to like predict their future. It's something where I look at it and I'm like, okay, well, look at the patterns, right? We had Natalie Luke on the podcast, and she is, she's got her doctorate and she's, a scientist, and she's like, do you have a pattern of success? Where is that pattern? Like you probably were really good, like taking a horse that maybe, I don't know what kind of horses you worked with, but like if they were abused, if they were, shy, if like whatever their issue was, you had different ways that you used to pull them out of their shell and help them thrive. Right. And that's the same thing that you probably do with your coaching clients, because you can see what they can't see because they're in it. You're like from the outside looking in saying like, hey, okay, well, this is what I'm hearing here. This is what I'm hearing here. Now there's a pattern. I feel like this is a good direction for you, and I'm sure that's what your friend felt too, because when somebody's doing that with you, it's almost like validating, but also it's like you're giving up. What is the word? You're like surrendering to the fact that like you're willing to put the work in. You just got somebody to guide you through that.
Yes. Yeah. It really helps to have somebody's out. That's what's so great about investing in coaching too, is having that outside perspective looking in that can help us to believe in ourselves, that can help us to move through that fear and self-doubt, that can help us to see we already have so many beautiful gifts inside of us. That's one of my big missions in this life, is empowering people that just as you are today, as you are today, you have so many beautiful gifts, skills, talents within you that you can create and shift into whatever it is you desire, and shift it into a way where you feel like you're creating impact and serving. And you don't have to wait until you are smart enough, talented enough, good enough, you have that certain particular education. You don't have to wait until you feel like you're enough at something. It's like who you are today, that is who is enough. There's so much in you just right now that you can help other people.
Isn't it heartbreaking when you meet someone, you're like, I can see the good in you. Why can't you see the good in you too? You know, and it's hard to pull that out, but we all have those, life stories, like these journeys that we've been on. And whether, you were, not lifted up as a child, or, I've met people who have gone through the foster system and have never had that like safety, security, consistency, or, have just had military families like that move all over the country and never really got to like build relationships and like have that moment where you're like feeling okay about meeting new people. I think that when you're in that moment, it's really hard to unpack. But if you can, I love the analogy of having a therapist, a life coach, and then you as kind of the crew. I often say, like, a therapist is like an archaeologist that kind of digs up the bones and figures out where you came from and like why you do the things you do and like what the stories are and what's serving you and what's not serving you. And then they pass it over to a life coach who's like an architect, right? Where you're like, okay, we know where we are. We've got the cement poured. Let's figure out how to build a house. Right. And then, we go through what feels good and what doesn't feel good and, what you want to do and why you want to do it. And then we create this blueprint for you. And then it's up to you to go and like build that house, right? And like figure out what kind of wallpaper you like, or if you even like wallpaper, or where you want to live, or where you want, what kind of career you want to pursue. But I think that as a coach, like you mentioned, like having somebody from the outside in validate and like pull things out of you that you don't see or don't feel is a pattern of success or is something that you could use for your next chapter. I think it's hard, and you don't have to like always pay for coaching. I mean, you and I are coaches. We, I'm sure you have a roster of clients that you work with. You can get free content. You can, there's many life coaches. Like I mentioned, Susie Moore, there's Mel Robbins, there's, we're on a podcast. There's tons of podcasts. Jay Shetty's another one where you can take little bits of inspiration from other people and then do things like we were talking about. Like you said, you felt like a download, like meditating and just like being still and listen to that inner voice. I mean, what are some other things that you've done to like kind of lean into like hearing that voice or like listening to the voice?
Yeah. Meditation, definitely. Journaling has been another big one for me. And
do you journal every day?
No.
See, I don't either. I have like a graveyard of journals that I've like started. And I think that that's what I need to do is like just make sure that at least once a week or, getting it out on paper. But I think a lot of people think that journaling is something you have to do every day and consistent. And I don't know anybody that does it every day.
Yeah, no, definitely don't do it every day. I feel like I've come to a place too where it's like I can recognize when I need to lean more into one tool than another. So I feel like I'm able to pick, what will serve me best in that moment. That's what I do with my morning routines too. It's like I don't even like to call it a routine because I will pick what will serve me best that morning, whether it's going out in nature, going for a jog, meditating, journaling, having more of like a intentional manifesting meditation or whatever it is. Anyways, what was the question you had asked?
Just what are some things that you've done to like kind of lean into listening to that still small voice?
Yes. Yeah. So meditating, journaling, also to getting around more like-minded people. That has been huge. And being around people who have already accomplished things that I want to accomplish. Yeah. Also I feel like it becomes a little bit easier. Sometimes it's a little bit more challenging to listen to that inner voice in the beginning, but once you start to trust it a little bit more, it becomes a little bit easier because you see how much it's guiding you. You see how much it's helping you align with your authentic self. So just, sitting with yourself when stories and things come up and asking yourself, what is that little voice? Where is that kind of more positive soul aligned thing leading me to? And really just leaning into like, how can I be fulfilled? That's going to lead me into more fulfillment.
Yeah. It's funny too. And I don't know if you feel this way, but I often think like, I'll have a thought about something or someone like I'll give you an example. This week, a guy that I went to high school with lives here in Charlotte. Well, he doesn't live in Charlotte. He lives about an hour north of Charlotte. And all last week, I kept thinking about him. And when I first moved out to Charlotte about 3 years ago, I went up by where he was because I had a client up there, and we had coffee and just hung out for a little bit, caught up. I mean, we hadn't seen each other in probably 20 years, so it was neat to like catch up. And he was going through a divorce, and it was one of those things like I had invited him to a couple things down here, like vice versa, and we just hadn't reconnected in a while. And I kept thinking about him all last week. And then I was like, you know what? I just need to text him. And I was traveling and all that. So I texted him and I said, how are things? I haven't talked to you in a while. And he's like, you know what? It's amazing. I just got married. We have a baby boy on the way. We've combined family. Like, I saw him in a place that he was a little bit heartbroken. Well, not a little bit. He was a lot heartbroken. But then I kept thinking about him, and it's funny because he was like, "Oh yeah, you came up the other day too," So I feel like when you have those thoughts, like be aware of them. Like it could be you, like I need to find a local like horse stable and see if I can volunteer, and like things will pop up in the in the realm of like that thought. Lean into that, like write it down. Like, oh, I've now thought about that 3 times. Like maybe I should look into that. It's always something where I find that I'm, I'm ignoring the thoughts that I have when it like pushes in front of me the hardest. I don't know if you feel that way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And one thing that's helped me a little bit too is to, when I do have those little thoughts come up, is take action faster.
Ooh, yeah.
Because when we let it just sit there, it's like it marinates and it gives us a longer amount of time to not take action on it, for one thing. Yeah. And it gives us a longer amount of time to doubt ourselves, right? And it also is taking up more space in your brain as well too, which could be instead be putting towards something that's more productive.
Like productive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You touched on getting with like-minded people, and part of my framework is ecosystem. And I say ecosystem because a community is so incredibly important, but also like the things that are in that ecosystem, whether it's, hobbies that used to bring you joy, or, like doctors that can help you, like whether you have a good therapist, or like I have an amazing therapist, but he's focused on North Carolina. So if I leave North Carolina, I can't work with him. There's all kinds of people that if you are in a community, you can gather more data, right? You can like figure out like, is this something I want to lean into? Like, what is their perspective? What is their experience? How has it impacted their lives? And like, it's hard without having that data. If you're just relying on the Google, you're not going to always get the answer that you need, right? It's like, we as humans are meant to be in community. And if you think about like the blue zones and all the research that they have, these people are living to like 110, 115 years old, and they all attribute it to the community that lifts them up on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. So that point that you made is so incredibly crucial, I think, because if you are not in community to be able to bounce out ideas off, like there's not very many thoughts that we all have that somebody else hasn't have. Like you and I have probably had the same doubts, but we just recently met. Mm-hmm. We're both in a public speaking group, and we're both creating keynotes. Like we're probably having the same doubts because we both joined the same keynotes, that showed us what our challenges or fears are probably arising and how to overcome them. So I think that's another really important point that you mentioned, because if you don't have those like-minded people to bounce things off of, it's really hard to see if you're going in the right direction, or, what roadblocks might come up as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's when we don't have those like-minded people around us, it's so much easier to doubt ourselves and think that we are crazy, for our big aspirations and the big visions that we have. So, and another layer of that too is like, especially if you are clear on goals that you want to achieve, you have that clarity, have someone around you that's already achieved them, right? Yeah. That's so important. For example, the other day I'm in Toastmasters, a speaking club. Yes.
I've been trying, like I even looked into it here in Charlotte, like when they meet and everything, like I need to, you're like the third person so like, this is an example. you're the third person in probably 2 weeks that is like, hey, have you ever considered Toastmasters? I'm like, yeah, somebody just mentioned that the other day. So now you're the third person, which means I need to go and check it out.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love it so much. I just joined a couple months ago, so I'm still kind of a newbie, but love it so much. But
wait, for those that don't know what it is, can you fill people in on what it is?
Yeah. So Toastmasters is a speaking club. It's just dedicated to helping you develop your public speaking skills. What is really unique about Toastmasters is that it brings in such a variety of people. I actually went into it thinking that, I aspire to be a motivational speaker. And so I went into Toastmasters thinking, oh, of course, like that's what everybody else is there for. But no, there's so many people there for so many different reasons. It could be people that they work on Zoom, and so they want to speak better, on their Zoom calls, or someone has a wedding coming up that they're officiating, so they want to speak better at the wedding, or some people just enjoy, it's to build their confidence, So there's so many different people there for so many various reasons, which is really beautiful.
And I know there's chapters all over the country. I mean, there's like multiple chapters just here in Charlotte alone. So like, I think any city that you're in, you can find a local chapters. They have just exploded over the last 20 years.
Yes. Yeah. We have, I think, 5 chapters just in within around St. Petersburg. Yeah.
Holy cow. That's awesome. Okay. So thank you. So yes, I don't think you are aspiring. I think you are a motivational speaker based on what we heard today. Like you are killing it already. So I love this. And I don't remember what I asked you.
I just picked up the thread again. So we were talking about mentors, and so I brought up Toastmasters. Yes. And what's cool about Toastmasters is, I guess I don't know if it's every club, but I would assume so. In my club, you get a mentor. And so I was pulled to a certain person in the club. You can kind of choose as long as that mentor has space and time for it. So I was pulled to this certain person I had seen speak a few times, and I just loved the way he spoke. And I was like, that's kind of where I aspire to be. I love his speaking energy. And what happened, so we had a few mentorship sessions, which have been great. He ended up landing a TEDx talk. Just a few weeks ago. Just did the TEDx talk last weekend. And do I think it's any coincidence that the mentor I was pulled toward landed a TEDx talk? Absolutely not.
And that's probably on your bucket list.
Yeah, absolutely. So to see him on stage. So of course I went. And so to see him on stage, having someone that's, that close to me, that's mentoring me, that has achieved things that are on my list, it's so important, and it's so inspiring, and it makes me feel that much closer. Like, it makes it feel realistic. These things start to feel realistic. Like your path is
aligned. The stars are aligning. Because you did mention that, and I even wrote it down, like your aligned purpose. Like that download, that like little feeling of like validation that comes from nobody but you. That's what that feels like when you know, like you're good at something, or like somebody mentioned, like when I was looking at I was never looking at life coaching. I'll just put that out there. I had coached a lot of people, partially because I ask a lot of questions, which makes me a good interviewer. I was a recruiter a long time ago, and I just kind of learned how to ask the right questions, which is really fun, but I am naturally curious. And so when I was going through, I mean, it was probably over the course of like a month, 6 weeks, I had several people tell me like, oh my gosh, you should be a life coach. And I was like, and somebody, like, I was with a group of girlfriends. We were on like a girls trip. We were driving back, and my friend said that. And I go, I am 45 and single. What do I know about life? And she's like, well, in the course of this like hour and a half, 2 hours we've been in the car, you've removed like 17 roadblocks for me. So I feel like that's what a life coach does. I'm like, that's what a life coach does? And then like I started looking into it, and everything about what I was reading and listening said the same thing. And I was like, holy cow, like people will see in you what you don't see in yourself. But if you're not in community, for somebody to be like, you know what, like you're really good at that, it's going to be hard for you to pursue it, right? Or to figure out what your purpose is if you're not having those conversations in community with people that lift you up or are a little bit ahead of you. So absolutely 100% love what you just said there, because mentorship is something that we've gotten away with because we rely so heavily on AI, on the Google, on search engines and stuff. But if you don't know what questions to ask, it's going to be really hard for the Google to tell you what you should be when you grow up.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
oh my
And
gosh.
I would encourage too, if you feel, kind of somewhat intimidated to get into a space, that's a good sign. That's a sign. Like lean
Yeah.
into it. There's a reason that resistance and that intimidation is there, but oftentimes there's still like this little pulling of like, I should be there, right? Just lean into it, go into it. And oftentimes these spaces and these mentors, they're so much more welcoming than, we may put in our minds before we're actually in it.
Well, we make things such a big deal, right? Like if going up to that person that you thought was an amazing speaker and saying like, hey, I would love for you to be my mentor, probably felt gigantic to you when they were probably like, oh my gosh, I'm humbled. Yes, I would love to help you. You know what I mean? Like, unless you ask, the worst thing somebody can say is no, and we've got LinkedIn, we've got all these people that you can go and kind of cyber stalk a little bit per se, and figure out where they're at and what they're doing and just ask. And they don't even have to be mentors that you physically talk to on a day-to-day basis or even on a monthly basis. They could be people that you are inspired by from afar, and you look into their journey. And if they're on social media or LinkedIn, or they might already have their story out there for you to listen and learn and draw some parallels into your own life without it ever even meeting them. Like Susie Moore, I've met because I work with her from a coaching perspective. But Mel Robbins, I've never met, and I aspire to be like her. Like, she is very thorough and consistent, and she gives great advice, but she's also just a regular person. And, she said at one point in time, like, if your dream doesn't scare the shit out of you, it's not big enough. And I'm like, yes, this scares the shit out of me, but I'm going to keep doing it anyway. And then if I don't like it, I don't have to keep doing it. I can pivot and stop and say like, oh yeah, I did a podcast and it was fun. But now I'm on to this, So I don't know. I love that. I love that. Well, Adency, this was awesome. I just looked down and we've already been talking for 42 minutes.
Oh my God.
It feels like 5. So if somebody wants to learn from you, coach with you, how do they find you?
Yeah, the place that I hang out the most would be on Instagram. So it's at Adency Selena. That's ADENCYSELENA. I hang out there the most, and then also on Facebook under the same name.
Okay, awesome. Well, I will put that in the show notes so everybody can kind of lean in and connect with you. Thank you so much for being here. I feel like this is such an incredibly important conversation because if somebody is moving and they aren't going closer to your dreams, it's just lining them up for a lot of regret. And I want to take the regret and the stress out of these moves. That is my mission, my purpose, and how I protect people in their hearts. So thank you so much for being a part of my journey. And I hope everybody loves this as much as I did. So thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This was such a great conversation. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. And I'm sure it won't be the last. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
Well, I could go on forever and ever about moving you closer to your dreams, but I probably should save some thoughts for the next episode. A big thanks goes out to you for making time for me today. And making time for me, you're making time for future you, and we're both grateful. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe to the podcast, download the episodes, and leave me a 5-star review. I would really appreciate it. In return, if you go to my website, marriottsonthemove.com, and register for the Monday mailer, I'll send you a free Fred workbook to get your journey started. This is also where you can find all the show notes and all the ways to get in touch with me. A special thanks goes out to Rogue Media for its wisdom and partnership. Until next time, friends, keep moving forward towards your dreams. Oh, and the legal stuff. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. I am a certified coach, not a licensed therapist, and this is not meant to replace the professional advice of a physician, psychotherapist, or other qualified professionals. This is solely my perspective based on my own experience and training. Okay, now it's over. For reals. Bye for now.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.